The twin suns of Jatar shone like white fire over the dusty square. In the center stood Lyra, her wrists tied to a tall iron post. The air smelled of metal and heat. A silent crowd of many alien races watched as the magistrate prepared to read the sentence. 300 lashes. The words echoed through the square like a cruel drumbeat. Among the crowd was a human trader named Ethan Ward. His ship had broken down 2 days earlier, forcing him to wait for repairs in this strange mining city. He had only come for spare parts, but now he stood frozen, staring at the young woman about to be whipped. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest. He didn't know Lyra, but something in her eyes reminded him of people he loved back home on Earth, his sister, his friends. He thought of the wide blue oceans and the green fields he had left behind to travel the stars. Humans had fought hard to build a life beyond their planet. They had carried with them not just technology but a deep sense of justice. That sense now burned inside him. The magistrate's voice cut the air. For theft of government ore, the sentence is 300 lashes. Begin. Lyra lifted her chin. She looked small but proud, though her eyes held quiet fear. Ethan could see she was no thief. The guards raised a long whip tipped with metal beads. The crowd barely moved. To them, this was just another day. A memory stirred inside Ethan. His closest friend back on Earth, Jacob, who had moved across the ocean years ago. They had promised to stay close, but time and distance grew between them. Letters slowed, calls faded. Ethan still missed him, still wished he had fought harder to keep the bond alive. That memory of lost friendship now mixed with the sight of Lyra's trembling shoulders. He couldn't let another connection die, even if this one had just begun. The first guard stepped forward. The whip hissed through the hot air. Stop! Ethan's voice thundered before he could think. The square went silent. He pushed through the crowd, every heartbeat loud in his ears. Stop! He shouted again, his words sharp and clear. Give them to me instead. Gasps rippled through the square. The magistrate's eyes widened in disbelief. What did you say, human? Ethan stood tall, sweat shining on his face. I said give them to me. If punishment must be given, I will take it. Lyra turned her head, stunned. No, she whispered. You don't even know me. Ethan met her eyes. I know enough, he said softly. The magistrate frowned. Why would a human take the pain meant for another? Because it's wrong, Ethan said. Because someone has to show that mercy is stronger than fear. The magistrate hesitated. Around them, the crowd murmured. Aliens of every color and shape watched this human who offered himself for a stranger. Some looked puzzled, others moved. Ethan thought of Jacob again, the friend who had drifted away because neither of them spoke up enough. If he could not bridge that distance then, he would bridge this one now. No matter the cost. Finally, the magistrate nodded slowly, curiosity winning over protocol. Very well. If the human wishes to suffer, let him. Guards untied Lyra and bound Ethan to the post. The ropes bit into his wrists. He took a deep breath. The first lash struck his back like fire. He clenched his jaw and stayed silent. Strike after strike fell. 10 lashes, 20. The crowd shifted, unsettled. Some turned away, unable to watch. Lyra stood close, her hands trembling, tears bright in her eyes. She whispered, please stop, please, but Ethan endured. With each lash he thought of Earth, of the stubborn hope that had carried humans from one star to another. That same hope filled him now. Pain was real, but so was the belief that kindness could change a world. By the 50th lash, the magistrate raised a hand. Enough, his voice cracked. Release him. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. Ethan sagged but remained upright. Blood stained his shirt. The crowd was silent. The magistrate faced the people. This human's act shames our cruelty. The sentence is finished. Lyra rushed to Ethan, helping him stand. Why would you do this? She asked, voice shaking. He managed a faint smile. Because no one should stand alone, he said. That's what humans believe. The crowd began to murmur again, this time with awe. Some lifted their fists, a gesture of respect. In that moment, the idea of mercy spread like a spark in dry grass. Later, as medics tended his wounds, Lyra sat beside him. You gave yourself for me, she said quietly. Ethan winced but smiled. You reminded me of someone I care about, someone far away. I couldn't save that friendship from distance, but I could save you from pain. Tears shone in Lyra's eyes. You saved more than me. You showed them another way. The stars above Jatar glimmered like distant fires, each one a reminder of how vast the universe was and how small a single act might seem. But sometimes one voice, one roar was enough to carry across galaxies. The sons of Jatar had barely climbed over the horizon when Lyra stepped into the small healing room. The walls hummed with the soft blue light of medical scanners. Ethan sat on the bed, his back wrapped in clean bandages that glowed faintly with the medic's salve. He turned as she entered, a tired smile on his face. "You should be resting," she said. "I've rested enough," Ethan replied. His voice was steady but soft, like someone holding a memory close. Lyra sat beside him, her long fingers folding in her lap. The room was quiet except for the distant hiss of steam pipes. "You saved me," she said. "I don't understand why." Ethan looked at the floor. "Because no one else would. Because it was the right thing to do." He paused. "And because it reminded me of someone I care about. Someone far away." Lyra tilted her head. "Someone you miss?" "Yes," Ethan said. "His name is Jacob. We were best friends back on Earth. We grew up together, built small rockets in our backyard, and dreamed of the stars. Then he moved to another continent. At first we talked every week, but life got busy. Months passed, then years. Now it feels like there's a whole galaxy between us." Lyra listened quietly. She understood that kind of distance. "You never tried to reach him?" "I tried at first," Ethan said. "Messages, calls, but the replies slowed. I told myself he was busy. Then I got busy too. I always thought I'd have time later, but later kept moving away." He sighed and pressed a hand against the bandages on his back. "When I saw you standing there, it felt like a second chance. I couldn't save that friendship from distance, but I could save you from pain." Lyra's eyes softened. "You gave your own pain instead." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's what humans do, we try, even when it hurts." Outside the clinic, the city was changing. Word of the human sacrifice spread through the markets and alleys like fire on dry grass. Traders whispered about courage. Miners argued with guards about justice. For the first time in years, people questioned the harsh laws. Later that day, Lyra guided Ethan through the narrow streets. He walked slowly but insisted on seeing the city. Children peered from doorways. Vendors bowed slightly as they passed. Ethan nodded to each of them, a quiet acknowledgement of shared humanity, even among those who were not human. At a small fountain, they sat and watched the water shimmer in the light of the twin suns. "Do you think they will change?" Lyra asked. "They might," Ethan said. "Change starts with a story. One act, one spark." Lyra looked at him carefully. "And what about your friend? Will you try to speak to him again?" Ethan stared at the moving water. The question echoed in his heart. He felt the old ache, the silence of missed birthdays, the unanswered messages. "I want to," he admitted, "but I don't know what to say after so long." Lyra touched the edge of his sleeve. "Maybe you just say what you feel. That you still care. That distance doesn't erase friendship." Ethan let the words settle. She was right. Humanity's strength wasn't only in brave acts. It was in reaching across space, time, and silence. The same hope that carried humans beyond Earth could carry a simple message across years. That night, under a sky full of stars, Ethan sat in the small guest room of the repair yard. His back ached, but his mind was clear. He pulled a thin communicator from his travel pack. The screen glowed pale blue. He hesitated, remembering their last talk, a rushed call before Jacob left for a research station across the ocean. They had promised to stay close. Then the silence had grown. Ethan began to type. "Hey Jacob, it's been a long time. Too long. I've been traveling the stars, and today something happened that made me think of you. I helped someone I barely knew because I couldn't stand to lose another connection. I don't want to lose ours. I hope you're okay. I still remember the rockets we built and the nights we planned to explore space. I'd like to hear from you. Ethan." He read the message twice, simple, honest, human. He pressed send. A small icon blinked. Message delivered. Ethan leaned back, feeling a quiet warmth. Whatever came next, he had reached out. Hope had crossed the distance. The next morning, Lyra met him at the shipyard. "You look lighter," she said. "I sent a message," Ethan replied. "To Jacob." Lyra's eyes brightened. "That is good." They walked among the humming ships. Workers paused to glance at them with respect. The story of the human who took the lashes was already a legend. "You've changed this place," Lyra said softly. Ethan looked around at the bustling city. Maybe. But what matters most is that we tried. He thought of Jacob again, of laughter under the night sky on Earth. He didn't know if Jacob would reply today or next month or ever. But the hope was alive. That was enough. As the suns rose higher, Ethan felt the pain in his back ease just a little. He realized something. The human spirit was not only about surviving or fighting. It was about reaching across pain, across silence, across stars to say, I care, I'm still here. And in that truth there was a strength greater than any whip. The repair yard buzzed with early light as Ethan prepared his ship for flight. The new power cell hummed beneath the floor plates, ready for the next jump. His back still ached from the lashes, but his mind was sharper than it had been in years. He kept thinking of the message he'd sent to Jacob. No reply yet. The communicator stayed silent, a small blue dot on the console. Lyra arrived carrying a bundle of fruit from the market. You are leaving soon, she said softly. Soon, Ethan answered. He looked around the city one last time. The square where he'd shouted, give them to me, was now filled with workers cleaning the old punishment post. Children ran across it laughing. This place feels different. It is, Lyra said. People talk about new laws. Some guards even speak of fairness. Your pain opened their eyes. Ethan gave a small smile. It wasn't just me. They had the strength already. They only needed a reason to see it. They walked along the edge of the landing field. The sky glowed a gentle rose under the twin suns. Lyra turned to him. Did your friend answer? Not yet, he said. He tried to keep his voice calm, but a quiet sadness crept in. Maybe he won't, it's been so long. Lyra placed a light hand on his arm. Distance is not only in stars. Sometimes it is in silence, but you reached across it. That is human strength, yes? Ethan met her eyes. That's the hope, yes. As the ship fueled, Ethan remembered long evenings with Jacob back on Earth, nights when they watched the sky and named every bright star. They had promised to explore them all someday. Life had drifted them apart, but the memory of that promise still burned like a small, steady flame. He stepped inside the ship to check the last systems. The communicator blinked. His heart jumped. A message. He opened it with a trembling hand. Ethan, I can't believe it's you. I thought about writing so many times but didn't know how to start. I'm on a research station near Titan now. I miss those rocket nights too. I'd love to hear everything. I never stopped being your friend. Ethan read the words twice, a slow smile spreading across his face. The silence of years cracked open, replaced by the warm rush of connection. He hurried back outside where Lyra waited. He wrote back, Ethan said, the excitement bright in his voice. He still wants to talk. After all this time, Lyra's eyes shone. That is wonderful. The distance was only sleeping. Ethan laughed, feeling the weight of years lift from his chest. You were right. Reaching out was enough. Before boarding, Ethan looked around one more time. Miners were gathering in the square, holding small banners that read, Justice for All. Children chased each other through the dust. The world had started to change. Thank you for everything, he told Lyra, for reminding me what matters. And thank you, Lyra replied, for showing us what humans carry in their hearts. They clasped hands, human and alien, sharing a quiet promise of friendship that would last across the stars. As the ship rose into the pale morning sky, Ethan gazed at the endless black dotted with silver light. He thought of Jacob, of the message waiting to be answered again, of new conversations and old dreams renewed. The universe felt smaller now, not because the stars were closer, but because hope had crossed the space between hearts. The stars over Jatar were fading into a pale morning when Ethan woke. His back ached from the lashes, but it was the quiet beep of his communicator that stirred him. No new message. He sighed and set it aside. The memory of sending that first note to Jacob stayed bright in his mind. It had felt brave, maybe braver than shouting in the square. But now the silence stretched on and doubt crept in. Maybe he doesn't want to hear from me, Ethan thought. Maybe I waited too long. He rose carefully and stepped outside. The city looked softer in the early light. Workers swept the square where he had once shouted, "Give them to me!" The punishment post had been taken down. Children played where fear used to live. Lyra joined him, her long cloak brushing the dusty street. "You are up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep," Ethan admitted. "Still no word from your friend?" He shook his head. "Not yet," Lyra studied him. "Distance is heavy," she said. But you reached across it. That is the first courage. Ethan gave a small smile. Humans keep trying even when it hurts. They walked through the market together. Vendors called greetings to Ethan, offering fruit and small trinkets as thanks for his stand against the magistrate. The whole city felt different, quieter but also stronger, like a heart learning a new rhythm. Lyra led him to a high cliff at the edge of the mining colony. From there, the twin suns rose like twin fires on the horizon. I used to come here, she said, when I felt far from everyone. It helped me remember that the sky is bigger than my worries. Ethan looked at the endless stars. It's beautiful, he said. Back on Earth, my friend Jacob and I used to watch the night sky. We dreamed about exploring the stars together. I thought we'd always stay close, but time, it stretches things. Did you tell him that? Lyra asked. Not in years, Ethan said softly. I sent one message yesterday, but nothing yet. Maybe he is afraid, Lyra said. Sometimes silence is not anger. It is fear of what we might feel. Ethan nodded. He knew she might be right. He remembered how many times he had wanted to write Jacob but held back, afraid the friendship was already gone. Maybe Jacob felt the same. Later, Ethan returned to his ship to check the final repairs. The communicator blinked, his heart jumped. He opened the message. Ethan, I can't believe it's you. I wanted to write so many times but didn't know how to start. I'm on a research station near Titan now. I miss those nights we built rockets in your yard. I never stopped being your friend. I'd love to hear everything. Jacob and Ethan read the words twice, a slow warmth spreading through him. Years of silence melted in a moment. Distance suddenly felt small. He stepped outside where Lyra waited. He wrote back, Ethan said, his voice bright. He still cares, Lyra smiled. The distance was never stronger than hope. Ethan laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. You were right. Reaching out was enough. As the suns climbed higher, Ethan prepared to leave. People gathered in the square, some holding signs for fair laws. Children waved as he walked by. Lyra clasped his hand. You reminded us of courage, she said. And you reminded me to keep trying, Ethan replied. When his ship lifted into the sky, he looked down at the city that had changed because one human refused to stay silent. Above him stretched the same stars he had once watched with Jacob. They no longer felt so far. Ethan's ship glided through deep space, the stars shining like a trail of small fires. Days had passed since he left Jatar. The wounds on his back were healing, but a different ache lingered, a quiet pull toward the friend he had almost lost. Jacob's reply had filled him with joy, yet it also stirred an old sadness. They had so much to catch up on, so many years to bridge. How do you restart a friendship when time has carried you down such different paths? Ethan sat in the pilot's seat and opened the communicator. The blue light of the screen reflected in his tired eyes. Jacob's message still waited there, warm and welcoming. Ethan typed a few words, then stopped. He deleted them, tried again, and stopped once more. Why is this so hard? He muttered to himself. To clear his thoughts, he walked to the observation deck. Outside, the galaxy stretched wide and bright. He remembered nights on Earth when he and Jacob built small rockets and sent them into the dark sky, shouting promises to explore together. They had been so sure nothing could separate them. Ethan thought about Jatar, the city square, the roar that stopped the lashes, and Lyra's gentle wisdom. Standing up for someone he barely knew had felt natural, but talking to a friend he loved? That felt heavy with fear. He whispered into the empty room. Why can I face a whip but not a simple conversation? The stars gave no answer, but their steady glow reminded him of humanity's own story. People who dared to leave their home world, to cross impossible distances, to keep reaching out. Humans had always found a way to stay connected, even when everything seemed lost. That thought sparked a small flame of courage. He returned to the console and opened a new message. Jacob, your reply meant more to me than I can say. I kept thinking we had drifted too far apart, but reading your words brought back every night we planned our journeys. I'm flying through the stars now, and it still feels like you're here somehow. I'd like to start again, even if it's one small message at a time. Ethan paused, then added, I missed you, my friend. He pressed send before doubt could return. A quiet beep confirmed it was on its way across the vastness of space. For a long moment, he just breathed. The silence inside the ship felt different now, no longer empty but waiting. Later, he set the autopilot and watched the stars. He imagined Jacob on Titan, perhaps looking up at Saturn's rings, seeing the same distant points of light. Across millions of miles, their friendship stretched like a thin but unbreakable line. The communicator blinked sooner than he expected. "Ethan, I'm glad you wrote again. I missed you too. Let's not let the distance win this time. Tell me about your travels. Tell me everything." Ethan laughed out loud, the sound echoing through the cabin. He felt the old warmth of their friendship return, not as something from the past, but as something alive in this very moment. He leaned back, thinking of what Lyra had said on the cliff. Distance is not only in stars. Sometimes it is in silence. She was right. Humanity's strength wasn't just in courage against danger. It was in the quiet decision to keep reaching, to keep hoping, to speak when silence seemed easier. Ethan set a course for his next stop, but his heart was already traveling on a different path, one that stretched toward an old friend and a future of shared stories. The stars outside Ethan's ship glimmered like 1,000 silver lanterns, steady and endless. He leaned back in the pilot's chair, staring through the wide window. His wounds from Jatar had almost healed, but a different ache stayed with him. The long silence that had once stretched between him and Jacob. Even though Jacob had replied, Ethan still felt the weight of the years they had spent apart. Their messages were warm but brief, like the first fragile steps onto a frozen lake. Each time Ethan started to write more, he stopped. How could a few words capture everything, his travels, his mistakes, his hopes? He whispered into the quiet cabin, "How do I begin again?" The hum of the ship offered no answer. He thought of the day in the square when he had shouted, "Give them to me." Back then, the choice to act had been clear. But now, with a friendship to rebuild, the path felt less certain. To clear his mind, Ethan left the cockpit and stepped into the observation dome. The galaxy stretched in every direction, glowing with distant suns. He remembered the backyard where he and Jacob once built small rockets. They had dreamed of this view, two boys believing they would conquer the stars together. He closed his eyes and saw Jacob's laugh, heard the crackle of a summer fire, felt the old bond they had shared. It had survived in memory, waiting to be renewed, but memories alone could not bridge years of silence. A quiet thought came to him. Humans have always crossed the impossible. They had sailed unknown oceans, walked on the moon, reached the far planets. Reconnecting with one friend should not be harder than that. Hope stirred in his chest like a soft heartbeat. The communicator chimed, a new message. Ethan hurried back to the console. "Ethan, your last note made me smile for an entire day. I keep remembering our nights of rocket launches. Do you remember the time we lost one in the neighbor's tree and spent hours trying to shake it down? I never forgot that. It feels good to talk again." Ethan read the message twice, a grin spreading across his face. The ice between them was already breaking. Jacob remembered the same small moments, their shared laughter and stubbornness. Ethan began to type. "Jacob, I remember every rocket, every night under the stars. I remember how we said we'd explore space together. I wish I had tried harder to stay close. I'm sorry for the silence. I never stopped caring." He paused, then added, "I'm on a route near the Vega system now. Maybe one day we can meet no matter how far apart the stars seem." He pressed send before doubt could return. Later, Ethan set the ship on a slow course toward a trade station for supplies. As he guided the controls, he thought about the strange journey of friendship. It was not a straight line. It was more like the path of a comet, sometimes close, sometimes far, but always drawn back by a quiet force. He remembered Lyra's words on the cliff. "Distance is not only in stars. Sometimes it is in silence." Those words stayed with him. She had been right. The hardest distance was not the space between planets, but the silence between hearts. When the ship docked at the trade station, the air smelled of metal and spices. Ethan wandered through the busy market, watching merchants from many worlds trade goods and stories. He felt the familiar spark of curiosity that humans carried wherever they went. People noticed him, some whispering about the human who took the lashes. But Ethan's thoughts kept returning to Jacob. He bought a small piece of polished stone from a distant moon. It shone with a soft blue light. It reminded him of the nights when he and Jacob had watched the Earth's moon rise over their hometown. He decided to send it as a gift. Back on the ship, he wrapped the stone and attached a note. "Jacob, this is a piece of a moon I visited today. It made me think of ours back home. I hope it reaches you soon. Maybe it can be a small piece of the sky we once shared. He arranged for a courier ship to carry the package toward Titan. As he sealed the order, he felt a gentle satisfaction. Connection did not have to be perfect. It just had to be real. A day later, another message blinked on the communicator. Ethan, the stone arrived. It's beautiful. I can almost feel the cold of space in it. I've shown it to my crew here on Titan. They all know about you now. We should talk live soon. Maybe a video call? Ethan laughed, relief washing over him. A live call. After all these years, he set a time and prepared the system. When the moment came, Jacob's face appeared on the screen. Older, a little different, but with the same bright eyes. Ethan, Jacob said, his smile wide. You look like you've seen a galaxy. I have, Ethan said with a grin. And you look like you've been building one. They talked for hours about old memories, new adventures, and everything between. Laughter filled the cabin, bouncing off the metal walls like music. The years of silence melted away, replaced by the easy friendship they once knew. When the call ended, Ethan sat quietly, feeling the soft thrum of the ship beneath him. The distance between Earth, Titan, and the far stars no longer felt like a barrier. It felt like a path they could walk together no matter how far it stretched. He looked out at the endless sky and thought of the day on Jatar when he had shouted, "Give them to me." That same spirit had guided him here, not just the courage to face pain, but the deeper courage to reach out, to heal, to hope. Humans, he realized, were not only explorers of space. They were explorers of connection, and with hope as their guide, no distance, between planets or between hearts, could ever be too great. The stars outside the trade station glowed like tiny sparks of silver as Ethan guided his ship away from the docking bay. The engines purred softly, a steady heartbeat beneath his feet. He set a slow course toward a quiet sector, wanting time to think. Jacob's face from their recent call stayed bright in his mind. Seeing his friend again had felt like watching the sun rise after a long winter. Yet when the call ended, a small ache returned. Years of silence could not be erased in one conversation. Their friendship had a bridge now, but it needed careful steps. Ethan sat in the pilot's chair and stared at the endless dark. "How do we build it back?" he whispered. The memory of Jatar stirred in him, the square where he had shouted, "Give them to me." He had acted without fear, knowing it was the right thing. Rebuilding a friendship required a different kind of courage. Patience, honesty, and the will to keep trying. A soft chime from the communicator broke the silence. Another message from Jacob at Ethan. "I keep thinking about our talk." It felt like we were kids again, looking up at the night sky. "I'd like us to share more than messages. Could you visit Titan sometime? I know it's far, but it would mean a lot." Ethan smiled at the words. The idea of seeing Jacob in person filled him with excitement and worry. He was deep in the outer systems, and Titan was many jumps away. Travel would take weeks and cost a fortune. He tapped a reply. "I'd love to visit. It may take time, but I will find a way." He paused before sending it, wondering if the promise was too big. But he pressed send anyway. Humanity had always found a way across distances. That was their strength. The next days were quiet as Ethan planned his route. Fuel costs, star maps, and repair stops filled his schedule, yet he carried a warm sense of purpose. Each calculation was a step toward an old friend. At a small refueling station orbiting a red dwarf star, he sat with a mug of steaming tea. A group of young explorers at the next table recognized him. "You're the human from Jatar," one said in awe. "The one who took the lashes." Ethan gave a modest nod. "That was me." "Why would you suffer for someone you barely knew?" another asked. Ethan thought for a moment. "Because pain can't stop kindness," he said simply. "Sometimes we have to show that mercy is stronger than fear." Their eyes widened and they whispered among themselves. Ethan hoped they would carry that thought into their own travels. Back on the ship, Ethan sent another message to Jacob, sharing a small story about the young explorers. He described the red dwarf star and the way its light turned the station walls a deep orange. Jacob replied quickly, "It sounds amazing. I wish I could see it. Your stories remind me that the universe is bigger than any distance between us." Ethan read the words twice, feeling the bond grow stronger. Each message was a thread, weaving their friendship back together. Weeks passed. Ethan crossed silent starfields, skirted glowing nebulae, and stopped at lonely outposts. At each stop, he sent Jacob a note, a photo of a blue-green comet, a short recording of alien music, a few lines about the people he met. Jacob always answered, sometimes with stories of Titan's icy plains or the ringed sky of Saturn. One night, while drifting between jumps, Ethan sat in the observation dome and reread their messages. The ache of distance was softer now. He felt close to Jacob, even across the vast cold of space. Still, a small fear lingered. What if when they met, the years apart felt heavier than the friendship? He stared at the stars and whispered, "Hope is stronger than fear. Always." Finally, after many weeks, Titan appeared as a pale golden sphere beneath the distant glow of Saturn's rings. Ethan felt a rush of excitement and nervousness. He guided the ship down through the thin atmosphere, landing near the research station where Jacob worked. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air brushed his face as he stepped onto the icy ground. The sky above shimmered with Saturn's rings, a giant ribbon of silver and gold. Jacob was waiting outside the station. He looked older, with a few gray hairs at his temples, but his smile was wide and familiar. "Ethan!" Jacob shouted, running forward. They met in a strong embrace, laughter mixing with the crisp Titan air. "I can't believe we're here," Ethan said. "Neither can I," Jacob replied. "But it feels like no time has passed at all." They spent the day walking along the station's outer paths, their breath forming tiny clouds. They talked about old memories and new adventures, about Earth and the endless stars. Each story filled the space that years of silence had left. That evening, they stood together under the rings of Saturn. The giant planet glowed softly above them, its light painting the icy surface in silver. "I miss this," Jacob said quietly. "Not just the stars, us." "Me too," Ethan replied. "I thought we'd lost it forever." Jacob shook his head. "We just needed to reach across the distance. That's all." Ethan smiled. "Humans are good at that. We keep reaching no matter how far." They stood in silence, watching the sky. The friendship they had once feared lost was alive again, stronger for the space it had crossed. Later, as Ethan prepared to leave Titan, he thought about the journey. The first hesitant message, the long jumps through empty space, the courage it took to hope. Humanity's strength was not only in exploring new worlds, it was in refusing to let silence win, in believing that connection could survive time and distance. As his ship rose into the black sky, the memory of Jatar came back to him. The roar that stopped the lashes, the moment he chose to bear pain for another. That same spirit had brought him here, to an old friend and a renewed bond. The stars stretched before him, endless and bright. Ethan knew that no distance, between planets, hearts, or years, could defeat a friendship carried by hope and the unbreakable will of a human heart.